Call the shots. All right, here we go. Hi, welcome to our blab today. This is a Berta blab, and I'm Natasha Berta. I have an itchy eye all of a sudden. I am an online marketer, but I'm not a normal online marketer. I do things like talk to people. I'm not just all about selling. I'm about hanging out and connecting with people. So today on my Berta blab, I've got Leah and I've got Joe, and we're going to just have a chat and try and figure out what they do. I had an idea to have a series called Is She Going to Touch Me? It doesn't apply so much to you guys. It was more like, how do you explain your services to people? Like if you do healing or something and it's an online service, like, well, is she going to touch me? Because it's online. How is she going to heal me?
That's so true.
Yeah, because it can be so hard with an online business to explain who you are and what you do. I mean, Joe, especially, I know you a bunch. I see you in groups doing gorgeous videos with insights into what the heck's going on out there and why I'm feeling so crap. But I mean, you tell me, maybe if you want your title and if I was to have a session with you, what it might look like. But I know you have multiple offerings, so let's see.
Thanks, Natasha. Yeah, one day I am going to nail what I do in one sentence, but it eludes me at the moment. It just does. Okay, I am Joe Muir, the Soul Visionary, and I love helping people understand what they're really here for in this lifetime and for them to understand themselves at a soul level. So I do that through Chaldean numerology, which is an ancient system of numbers, dates back 6,000 years, way older than the Western system, which is A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When Pythagoras supposedly invented the Western system, there was only 22 letters in the alphabet. So what happened when you stick in another 4 in the formulas? It's like, how does that work and still come out the same? So that's my major big issue with Western. So I go back to an older system, which is based on vibrational energy. And Chaldean numerology helps us understand ourselves at an intellectual and a higher self perspective. So we can work about how we operate with others, how we understand ourselves, how we show up in the world. Then I love to take it to the next level, our soul space, which is even bigger than our higher self as I see it. And I feel that we come from, we've spent times in different soul realms before we had time on Earth, and we've come to Earth to experience life and, you know, its gloriousness that sometimes eludes us, but generally they have this glorious life, you know, it's set out in the blueprints, like the roadmap of how life can be. So when people understand their soul groups, they can understand the qualities of spirit that their heart and soul are really longing for, whether it be love, connection, shining your light, freedom, you know, bringing advancement to society, you know, if you're a Syrian, or, you know, parallel, where you actually exist in parallel universes. That's mainly me. That's why I'm out there. That's why I multitask. So when you understand the soul essences of who you are, you can then also understand the challenges that come with those. And when I help explain people, well, because you belong to this, that, and the other group, these are the challenges that you have in your life, they tend to underpin everything behind those major life challenges that we repeat, all those sabotage patterns. So when I'm in session with people, and I love starting with a big 2-hour, you know, full on, let's get in there, let's really get to grips with who you are. So I'll do your numerology and your soul group. So, you know, an hour or so of talking, so you're understanding it, and you're like, oh my gosh, so much to take in, and the aha moments will go, oh my God, that makes sense. Okay, I get it now. I get where I'm coming from. And then I do the journey work. And that's where the magic comes, I feel, because I have an ability to see energetically where your blocks are in your body, where those patterns are that I've discussed with you about what's being held up a soul level, and add on to all your life experiences or lives experiences within your body and etheric body. And I help clear those. So it's like, you know, it's like clearing them out, clearing that stuff in your heart, so that you can plug in what I call the divine fuel pump, plug into these resources that are out there that you didn't even know existed, that are what really fuel you from your inside. So for a lot of people, you know, we're conditioned that our fulfillment comes from perhaps serving other people or loving other people, or you know, we understand we need to love ourselves, except we're not shown how to find that love. Where does that love come from? What fuels us? And so most people are running on empty. And, they see, the people that have done some work and are starting to be awakened, and they understand, well, the universe is your petrol station. And I go, yeah, well, that's cool. Yes, it is. Where's the pump? How do you connect in? How do you stop off at the universe? And, yeah, you can have that connection, you get some in flow. But for me, it's like, well, sometimes we need a bit of this and sometimes we need a bit of that. And that's where you can tap into your own soul realms as well as all the other soul realms. I work with 9. So you can bring in and plug into your heart once that stuff's clear out the shit in your heart and in your body space to allow the flow in. And so for me, it's about having people understand who they are, clear those patterns, clear the energetic bodies, and tap into those resources that, and into the infinite potential and possibility. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. And, you mentioned about astrology and planets. I love all that. It's not what I do, it's what supports me. And that's what I share with others, in the groups. And I know your nickname for me, Golden Tongue, Natasha. I love that. Because it just supports me, what I've witnessed through the eclipse season recently and how it's played out for me and what I see around. It's just the correlation is too big to ignore. It's
astounding. It is. And I think, it's so good to hear you talk about your session because I love your work and I've looked at your sales page and I've seen your offers and it hasn't resonated the way that just resonated with me. Like, I think it is so good when we get a chance to actually unpack what you'll do with me or will she touch me? Like, really, it helps. Now I'm like, oh my God, now I really do need 2 hours with Jo, because before I was like, oh God, 2 hours, what will we do? But there is something when someone gets their zest on and they're impassioned about what they're talking about, that something else comes through and then it becomes irresistible to people. So thanks, Jo.
Well, you're welcome, and thanks for the opportunity for sharing. And as I say, it's one of the thing that eludes me is how to put all what I've just described whilst bringing through my energy of description into words on a sales page.
I think that I'll give you the recording and you just edit that. Just that was like, boom, what do you need? Or transcribe it. Like, you don't need anything else. That's gold.
Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes the unrehearsed and the unscripted and the uncopy and the editing is the best because it's me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Leah. Now, I'm going to give my Nuffy appraisal of what Leah does, is that she is got a corporate background, but she's now in a different direction and beautifully weaving her intuitive guides and that beautiful intuitive energy in with like a super solid background in mad skills. That's loose, isn't it? That's Nuffy.
Love it. That's an awesome introduction. I'll take it. Okay, so basically this time last year, it's almost 12 months now since I've left corporate. And I left corporate because I was burnt out for the second time again. And I just was very disillusioned and very down on myself and basically was crying on a Sunday afternoon thinking about going to work again on the Monday. And the work just wasn't inspiring me anymore. And I just knew that, like, it wasn't that I was sick. It wasn't that, necessarily, it wasn't physical things that were standing out to me. It was actually just that I just felt like something was wrong. And that's the only way that I can describe it. And so I went on a journey basically to learn that, the way synchronicity and the way universe works is that 2 days after I'd given notice to my client to terminate my contract because I was consulting, I was enrolled in a intuition course, and this was an 8-week course. And by the end of that course, I actually realized that everybody has intuition. It's just that nobody these days knows how to use it, or very few people. And as Jo said before, there's, all these people are described as waking up and coming to be in this space. And it's actually to do with as a greater cosmic lineup of things that are going on in the universe, and not just this universe, but multi-universes. And so and that's all stuff that I've come to know and come to realize. But at that point, I was just like, what is intuition? And my biggest thing was discerning fear from intuition. So that's basically where this started for me, because I was just like, well, I had this one time where I was sitting on a plane and they made everybody get off the plane. And I was like, I don't want to be getting back on that plane, you know, and I actually felt like that was intuition at that time. And it kind of felt like, oh, there needs to be divine intervention in order for me to be able to survive this plane trip. Well, actually, no, my fear triggers were playing out for me. And so it was really, really important for me to understand and discern between fear and intuition. So that's kind of where the journey started for me. And then after that, I kind of went into retreat in my apartment for 6 months. And it's very interesting because right now at where I am in my business and my life, I've actually gone into retreat again. And, you know, it makes sense to me because I work into the cycles of nature, and I talk about this in my work because for me, time isn't linear anymore. It is literally cyclical. So things go round on themselves. And, you know, this works in everything in nature like that. You have the life cycle, which is the ultimate cycle. You have the next cycle down, which is the seasonal cycle, which we call 12 months. You have the monthly cycle, which we call, you know, we call that a monthly cycle in a linear sense, or you can call it like the lunar cycle. It's the moon. And then from there, you also have a sun cycle, which is an energy and action cycle. That those two are the same sides of the same coin, opposite sides of the same coin. And then you've got the solar cycle. So within that, that's the day-night pattern. So what basically I found was that once I started to work into all these cycles, and decided to get out of my own way, I had all this stuff flood to me during this transition, resting, retreat period. And I sat down one day and I said, okay, well, you know, what am I really afraid of in this work? And what actually came to me was visibility, being seen, doing this work. And for me, that runs back through multiple lifetimes. And I mean, I always say to people, take what I say, the bits that you agree with, the bits that you don't agree with, that's fine too. But, you know, it's kind of, you take what you want and you take what you don't want. Whatever resonates with you, have that sit with you and think about a little bit more. But yeah, it's kind of like, whatever is in this discussion for you is what you're going to take away, and that's what you'll get. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And to round out kind of what I do, where that moved into was that I got to the place that maybe there was, once I got out of my own way and my biggest fear about being seen, having the flood of everything come to me, and basically I channeled an entire program. Like I channeled an 8-week program that was literally about stepping into being who you are from a perspective of living into what you believe your vision is. But that is then uncovered from, well, what is really your vision? How does that play out now in the present for you? What does that actually feel like for you? All the way through to executing that with business strategy. So it's basically combining all the strategy work that I've done through corporate and putting that with the soul work that I've learned in the process of creating my own business and creating, you know, this new thing for myself and exploring all that for myself. So, you know, that's what I do with people. I take them from being in a place where they might not necessarily even know what's not right with them. And we work into that space. But the biggest thing is that I teach them the tools to be able to do that, because I'm not really about, well, here's this thing and only I can access it for you. I'm about, here's this thing and you take away what you need to be able to access it again for yourself in the future. And I'd even go one step further than that, and I'd say, well, here's this thing for you to take away to access for yourself. And if you know, I've lit my light and now I've shown you how you light your light, and your light's a light. Okay, so do you want to be somebody who go and light other people's lights? So it's more about establishing this light grid around the globe where people are lit up for themselves and really inspiring other people. So, you know, the extension of that work is giving them the toolkit and training them how to facilitate the work. And it's not about, you know, my way of doing the work or your stuff. It's literally, if you're a coach, if you're a creative, if you're, you know, whoever, and you're working with clients, take the bits in the toolkit that work for you in those exercises. Because I can tell you, I don't use everything in the toolkit every day. So why should somebody else, you know? So that's really where the point of the work is getting to now. And it's becoming, you know, through this retreat period, through this winter for me in resting and figuring out, well, what's next, it actually is becoming very clear to me about where this work needs to go, and taking it back to the very initial beginning and working with people who, I call it the pilot light. The pilot light's just starting to be, you know, it's there, it exists all the time. Pilot light never goes out. So it's taking that pilot light and developing that light into a full light inside of themselves and for them to connect in. So that's the point where the work's up to now.
It makes me think about like in pagan, because I did a few years of really focusing on the pagan cycles. I'm just thinking about what you said about the different times of the year and thinking about how you're in retreat now. And I know, like, this time of year, you know, from equinox to solstice is a great time for letting go and grieving and for renewal. And then midwinter, you know, the way they perceive it is that's the first day of the year, really, is the first day after the shortest day of the year. Is the first day of the year. So do you feel any resonance with those
I do.
Approaches as well?
And actually where this work came from was I did a lot of work in shamanic circles for a while, and you know, sitting and observing how shamanism actually works with the cycles of nature. But then the ideas started to transform even further from that, and I realized that not only do these cycles exist in nature in the forms that I've explained, but then it's also in business. There's a period, even when you have the first wink of an idea, you know, for me that's spring. And that wink of an idea, well, it sits actually between spring and winter, because there's a gestation period, and that, you know, starts tapping you on the shoulder and you're kind of like, ooh, there you are again. Ooh. You start to pay attention to it. And then you work that round into summer, and summer is really the height of inspiration, and you're so fired up about it and you're so interested in what this new thing is. And then you work that round into autumn, and in autumn, you know, it's more about so if summer is discovery, then autumn is about exploration, because it's finding the fruits and the seeds and the nuts to kind of really see if this thing can really be a thing, like a thing in the physical world, and actually a thing that can help people and do the things that you want it to do. And then between autumn and winter, you go through this phase, and it's just called knowing it's possible, because all of a sudden you just know. And no matter what anybody says to you, you know that you have to make this thing a thing. Like, you have to do it, really. And as Joe and I have both experienced, we've both been looking to launch something new in the last month, but you know it's possible, right? And you know that this thing is a thing. So there's no telling you not to do it, but you then need to ascertain for yourself whether the timing is actually this go round in the cycle, or whether you release part of it and see what happens and reincorporate that and go round again. But really, because they don't work in timing the way we work in timing, it's non-linear. Yeah. So you just got to kind of pick when it is in the right cycle, and whether it's this cycle, whether it's another cycle. And that cycle that I talk about doesn't necessarily go for 12 months. It's not a year.
No. And it's funny that we have summer holidays in that period where you're saying things are really culminating and you're getting a lot of excitement, and then we go on holiday for 6 weeks. Kids.
And depending on which hemisphere you live in, it changes again, right? So, you know, this idea, you get it to that point of you just know it's going to work. And so therefore you push it around to winter. And what you do is you either release a really raw version of it. And so my background is also in startup. For like Google kind of startup. So, you know, at that point, we basically would launch something, you'd see how it goes, and then go through a test and iterate cycle. So in that test and iterate cycle, you learn what people want about the product, what they don't like about the product, and then you reincorporate changes, or you scrap the whole thing and you pivot and take it in a new direction, or you just fold the entire thing, right? So I'm just kind of like, well, why isn't life is one big startup. It's one big test of assumptions over and over again. Therefore, A, there's nothing to be afraid about, and B, it's just cyclical. Go round again. Who cares if your marriage failed? Go round again. Like mine did. Who cares? Like, I learned so much out of that. And I now know that person was like a karmic partner that I needed to resolve things with in order for me to learn what I needed to learn in this lifetime, which is stop self-sacrificing. But, you know, it's kind of like everything goes around in those cycles. So you can get to a point where you're just like, okay, well, that's going into winter now. I've released it. I'm allowing it to do what it needs to do, and it's going to come back to me. Like, it's almost in that conception, gestation period then, and then it comes out in spring, and all of a sudden you know what you need to do. You've got direction. You're on your way, and you've got all the energy that you need in the world to be able to get it done. So when winter calls, just rest.
Yeah.
Just rest.
And it's interesting we've got both of you who I didn't know, but it's happened every time I've done a blab with two people, that there's been this thread. I mean, maybe there's a thread between everybody, right? But it's fascinating. So, but then, and then Joe is working at another level of the cycles where the pre-life cycles or the celestial cycles are also influencing.
Yep. And the more that I do this work, the more that I know how important the work that Joe does is. Because that's like higher level block stuff that no matter what you do here in the physical, if that shit isn't sorted, you're just going to find it hard no matter what.
I absolutely agree. And I just want to say thank you. I've just this aha moment came on for me then. I recently did a launch of my Cosmic Alchemy Club, and as soon as I launched it, I went, oh no, it's the time's wrong, the value of things wrong. No, and I shared with Natasha just before you popped on, Leah, that I think beginning of July is going to be the time. Now, how's that? 10 days after the solstice, and it's my new solar year in July, and it's like, yes, that energetically, that feels right for me now. That will be, you know, planting it, as you say, soft launch, trial it for the 3 months and ready to emerge in the spring. So I love that realization and tying it in. Yeah, it all works.
Sure does. And it does my head in with the amount of women who are like, oh, I've just got to keep going. I've just got to keep pushing. You know, and they're physically being diagnosed with things. And that's how this came back around to me again this time. I'd already decided, like in my monthly cycle, I take 3 to 5 days out when it's actually menstrual cycle for me, because that's part of the resting and recharge period for me. So I had been in that process. And then it was kind of like I was just being told, you can't get out of this process. You can't get out of your rest. So I just kept going, basically, and, like, pushed everything out. But, you know, for me, then I was told that my hormone levels are out. I've got adrenal fatigue again. These things are coming back to me because it's forcing me. Hey, Nathalie. It's forcing me to pay attention to actually what's going on in my physical. Like, this is my etheric body telling me I've got shit going down in the physical body that I need to be paying attention to, because with all 4 bodies, if they're not in balance, then that's when you get disease, right? And I was writing yesterday about this because it's in this rest period for me, it's becoming so, so important. And so when Joe talks about the etheric body, if you've got shit going on in that and you're not dealing with it and you're not paying attention, like it's totally true. So, yeah, the more work that I do in that space too, the more so I'm actually learning Palladian light healing, which was something that I was called to after seeing Joe's was the second sign for me. I generally get 2 signs now and pay attention. It used to be 3. But after watching Joe's videos a little while ago, or I think it was your webinar, Joe. Yeah. And you explaining about Palladian and Syrian and like Palladium really stuck out for me, and that was the second time that I'd got this thing about it. So I actually saw a Palladian healer here in Melbourne, and Kristen Date, she's incredible. And it's really encouraged me now to pursue it as a study. So, energy healing is really, really important for the etheric body. And I know Nathalie definitely works in that space also. But
yeah, I've just added Nathalie as a caller because she and I were trying to organise a time to blab, and it just wasn't
this
happening.
totally works.
So really happy. I'm so glad to see that you made it on and you have time. And I'm now super curious because I actually haven't met you at all. I don't have a clue what you do, and I'd love you to fill us in about what your work is, because I see these things like on your thing. It says you're a biologist and you've got this amazing list of things you do. You have a PhD, but what is your work that you're currently doing?
Great question. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if I'm on. Yes?
Yeah.
And it's Nathalie, just in case. The H in my name is
cool.
very confusing because it's French, but it's Nathalie. Fancy Nathalie.
Cool.
So, yeah, it's funny that I'm tuning in because, I resonate with Leah and Joe as well. We're all working in a similar space. So, yes, I come from a scientist background, and I was in cancer research for a while and realized we're not studying everything in a petri dish. You're taking things out of their environment, and things are informed by emotions, by energy, by consciousness. And the energy of what I'm feeling in the day had an impact on my experimental outcomes. And so I started to lose faith in that religion. And as that happened, I had to leave it and then started to explore. I had my kind of my dark night of the soul, and came to a meditation that was held by two doctors. And that's what woke me up. And I was like, I need to learn everything. So I pursued a spiritual study within the school called Shanti Mission. It's a school for the soul here in Australia. And I've since become a therapist in the school, and it's a mind, body, spirit therapy. It's non-touch, and it works on body, mind, etheric body through the chakras, your soul, and bringing in more of your divinity into your realized everyday practical life. So making the money.
It's the perfect day for you to be on Blab.
I know. It's like perfect. So, so it's really, I'm an explorer of consciousness. I'm a mystic. I'm still a scientist. I'm just doing things through direct experience rather than, in a lab environment. But I do bring the scientific approach into my work. It's not about rejecting everything. It's like what you said, Leah, take what works for you. And a lot of people are running on their assumptions, and they're not testing their assumptions in a scientific way. And so you're going to continue to confirm your experiences unless you start to go, how else can I start to see this? What other theories should I be testing? And doing taking the scientific method approach to looking at your experience of life and what's guiding you. And what are we using for a confirmation? Are we trying to confirm the thing we want to believe? Or are we here to confirm, or we try to discover something new? So it all relates. But I'm also, my main thing is about peace. My job is peace. And so we're coming out of a dark age, and the dark age has created all sorts of fun things and conflict in the world. So I'm here to help detox that. So I'm kind of like a mental janitor, I guess. And I'm a cleaner. So I do it through, I'm also a mediator. So helping people have respectful conversations when they're in dispute and working towards negotiating a fair outcome for themselves. So that's a recent thing, and I love that. I help complementary therapists communicate science in what they do. So it's not about trying to become more credible in the mainstream sense. It's about, I want to learn more about epigenetics, for example, and how my work relates to changes in gene expression, but not in a way that this does that, because we don't know. We could say this might, so it's teaching people language to use that is inclusive and can help people connect with each other, help people to, meet people where they're at rather than imposing an agenda about this will help you. Like, I don't know if what I have will help you. Only you can decide that. And also helping complementary therapists, I guess, work towards an ethical practice. And more like what happens in a mainstream sense is just bringing in what works in mainstream and what works in complementary therapy land and combining them into something that we can all work together, refer to each other, and support our clients in the most helpful, harmless way. So that's everything that I'm involved in right now.
That's epic. Nice. I meditate, and I always find that that practice is the closest to science that I've ever been, really, in my life, because of being learning how to be objective enough to not influence my experiment. And that's not something I'm the master of by any stretch, but in life, to be able to see, I eat this and then this happens, because I just did a 30-day food, like a hormone reset food cleanse, or with the children, if I act this way, that happens, and if I act this way, that happens. And of course, my the things I experiment on all have their own wild variations. But I think, and then I have friends who say, "Oh no, we're not really spiritual. We're in the science cult." I'm like, well, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing. It's just different words.
It's a religion.
All religions, they have like a moral code, and they have practices that you do. And I think science is just very similar.
I've heard I have a friend, we did our PhD at the same time, and she's an associate professor in the States now. And I read one of her posts, I'm a scientist, so I'm not supposed to believe in astrology, but, it's like you are allowed to believe in whatever the hell you want. Nobody owns you, but maybe, the academia cult owns you. And, I had to leave that cult because it was damaging to my soul.
And I mean, really, scientifically, I think, like when I look at astrology scientifically, it makes even more sense to me that, obviously chunks of rock have different energies that they vibrate out, and that the effect of that, like the moon in the tides is like mind-blowing.
And we can learn to communicate
every other chunk of rock in the sky.
And we can learn to communicate with the different rocks in the sky. I mean, I have a friend who's a Vedic astrologer, and the planets talk to him. He's phenomenal. And it is a science. It is totally science. It's just, and we look at what Aboriginal communities know about the galaxies that now, mainstream science is confirming through their approach. So it's like these things have existed. People have had the technology. It's just like what you said, the language in which this is communicating it are different. And then that creates a division. So it's about connecting.
I see religion as crowd control, and whether that be academia or religion, church, or cultural, it's all conditioning. It's all conditioning of what we are told to believe, all the shoulds, and it's crazy. And for me, spirituality is that freedom. And whatever belief system you've got behind the word spirituality, it all comes down to raising consciousness and frequency. And as soon as we can move out of this conditioning and find the truth of who we are within that, and be the observer in awareness of what belief systems are running us, and being the observer, and that you are not that thought, you are not that belief. And the more you detach from that, the more you find that freedom, which is the truth. And when, I have 2 degrees as my background, I'm corporate 14 years, and I did 12 years of a business, which is still nothing to do with what I do. So it's the continuous evolvement, and it can take longer to detach from those beliefs and programming, conditioning, and what we're told to do to find the real freedom. But the more you grow and the more that you expand, that's when your frequency and awareness and consciousness actually grows. And then I see it as absolutely just the dogmas of these blocks. Here's the religion, here's the academia, here's the science of what in the box, and the labels that us humans like to put the labels on just disintegrate, and you see the illusion of what it is.
I think that's probably why I, and like you, Joe, find it so hard to actually describe what it is that you do, because it's not bound by any particular thing, right? And I know where my work is headed is in healthcare and revolutionizing the healthcare system. And I kind of think I need to be able to package something up for people that they can understand at a very conformist nature view, in order to be able to get in there with them and help them to see and recognize their own light, right? Because once they see and recognize that light, they'll ask their own questions. But for them to be able to initially even see that pilot light for themselves, that actually exists for them. I mean, a lot of people have, I guess, been using yoga to do that for years. But even when yoga is taught in Western society, well, this is from my experience, I find that people leave the whole spirituality aspect out of it when they teach, and that it's actually just about the physical body. And then it's, a cardio workout, or it's, Bikram hot yoga, or if you're not sweating your ass off, you're not doing it right. When actually it misses the whole purpose of connection, oneness, and breath, right? So I think there's still a little bit that if you can just sort of help people to see that the light is them, that they have this, and everybody has this. I mean, I know that I guess I'm speaking from my point of view, because I know that that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the light. I'm here to show people that light. I'm here to show them that it's in them. And I guess we're each here with slightly different missions, I suppose. And that's what I find quite interesting, because it's almost like the three pieces actually join together. And I see Nathalie as kind of this bridge between what people do understand to be the world around them at the moment for the masses, but she can also speak the language of what is the other side as well. And the work that Joe's doing, I suppose, I see that as very, like, that's part of my major important stuff at the moment, in helping to clear out all of that gunk and ancestral and, lifetimes worth of garbage, to be able to be really a really clear channel. And then I guess for myself, it's like somewhere in between both, I suppose. But the more that I do the work, the more I'm taking it backwards to be closer to being about, I'm not into working with people who are skeptical. I'm not into proving this work to people, and I generally haven't called anybody in like that to work with. So, it's, for me, it's really about working with people who are at the beginning of that awakening journey. And I hear this people talking about light all the time, and I just want to know what light is. Can you explain it a little bit more? That's the kind of people that I'm working with, people who deep down know that there's something not right for themselves, that there's something different, that there's something that they want to explore. And all their normal friends think that they're weird when they want to talk about it. But I'll sit there and talk about it all day with you.
Yeah. And I guess the challenge is, I feel that people just work with us, that they're called to us at a soul level, that it is intuitive, that it is soul level, and it is something beyond. And it's just a matter of, as people who have an online business, putting enough of ourselves out there so that the little thing inside the person, like the little link that we're going to link in with, can actually hook in and then take the next step. That, I was just speaking with a woman today who's transitioning from like a more product-based place in her business to becoming more service-based, and the leap that she needs to take in herself to step up and go, I don't really know how to articulate this, but this is what I'm going to be doing. And I said, well, you haven't changed. Like, doing the product thing was the same. You still wanted to help people to evolve, that you're still a catalyst for transformation. It's just changed shape a little bit. And yeah, it's interesting that it is very hard to explain how we do what we do. And even me doing marketing, I might talk about marketing, but ultimately I end up talking about energy with people, because that's how I interpret life.
Just following on that from that, Natasha, you just nailed it. We are all energy. It is all energy. And from what Leah was saying about, you want to help people and you're verbalizing and saying that, like, I love it. What I'm finding with my work, having been on my own journey for 13 years, consciously, when we understand about the energy and the frequency, it is beyond words. It is an experience. It is a feeling. And when I finish in session with people and I say, well, how are you feeling? It's so hard literally to find the words to come out, because what they have physically experienced and the shift in their energy is beyond the words. We limit ourselves by the words, and yet we need to use words to again, a label for comprehension. if we can get out of that requirement to name and label what it is and actually just accept the shift in feeling in our bodies, so that we can actually get into that state of real unconditional, the vibrational scale, which I love, David Hawkins' work, Power versus Force. When we look at the scale of 0 to 1,000, and the tipping point between negative stuff that runs negatively and positively is 200. Okay, the planet's population currently vibrates at 210, so only just above. And you've got to bear in mind that 80% of the population are third world, so that is bringing the frequency. The next fundamental tipping point is at 500, which is love or above. Okay, so, and there's 4% of the population on the planet that operates at 500 or above. And what happens, no matter where you are on that scale, you can experience the moments of unconditional love, joy, peace, bliss, and connection, the scale 500, 600, and even beyond. You can experience that for a moment, or even a few moments, or even for an hour, or even for a day. However, it's like having a piece of elastic. It was always going to ping back to where you are now. And the same as where if you're operating at a frequency of, say, 250, it doesn't mean that you'll never go back to feeling moments of anger or blame or victim or, lower levels. It just means your elastic will ping back to where you are now. And so when people understand this frequency of energy and how that works, it's what you feel in the shift. And sometimes it's about, yes, you can hear the words of this is how it can change, but it's almost like you've got to bring it in and embody the shift of your thought processes and embody it frequency-wise and energetically-wise, so that the whole of you shifts and not just that 10% in your conscious brain that shifts.
Yeah. So that's exactly like, you put it so well, Joe. This is exactly what Ignite Your Spirit therapy is all about. It's about raising people's vibration so that their default level is increasing. So no matter what happens in their life, you're going to fluctuate. And because, the lower vibrations, they act like gravity. They pull you down. They want to pull you down, especially since the, David Hawkins' work, the mass consciousness of humanity, the resting vibration is in shame. So everything, if you're not careful, if you're not doing the inner work and the purification regularly, you're going to start that shame thinking and mentality is going to creep into your psyche, and it's going to start to become the lens through which you see the world. So doing this work that is lifting your vibration, and it's not lifting your vibration is not something temporary. What I mean is that something that it becomes permanent. And people who are not doing the work don't raise their vibration at all, and they stay, where they're at for lifetimes until they get that kick in the ass that it's time to move up, because we're being pulled. We're being pulled. So come willingly, or get the stick to beat you to it. I'd rather be pulled willingly. So that's why it helps to have a teacher, like a realized, spiritual teacher who have traversed the tricks and traps of consciousness, who can pull you. And you, as a student, push that teacher into higher places. So it's a really great kind of relationship, because we're not aware of our own blind spots. So it helps to have teachers in your life who can help you reveal that for yourself and to clean up some stuff so that you can shift in your vibration. But it is ongoing work, because once you do go into those higher vibrations, you need to stabilize it. And again, you're going to be pulled down by shame in the lower vibrations. And like what you said, Joe, with the elastic analogy, which is a great visual, you do bounce back. But because those lower vibrations are so dense, we get stuck there. That's why we have so many people in the world who are dealing with so many mental health or other kinds of issues, because they have yet to develop the skill to get them back up into a stable place, or to work with people that helps them up, and then to learn tools that will help them remain in a stable, their new default level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's going from shame-based communicating or shame-based consciousness into unity-based thinking, speaking, behaving. And that's hard bloody hard work because you're working against the forces of nature.
Yeah.
You're working against the forces of gravity. You're relying on that divine pull or that universal pull. So, so that's I guess the purpose of the work that I do in so many different arenas. And it's like working with people who are the skeptics, like the scientists and a lot of people in the mainstream health professions, or just people in my life, my family members, like the Jewish community, who is another community I work with. So there's so many places you can go, and it's, like what you say, Leah, it's being that light. You don't even have to do anything. It's the work you do on yourself that you become that more, or you have more conscious awareness of it, that it becomes infectious and it can affect people, maybe sometime in this lifetime, next lifetime, whatever. It's that, but we're doing that work on behalf of everyone else, but, to help me out at the same time.
Yeah, it's such good timing for me today. I just really needed to hear everything that everybody said, and I think I'm just very selfish having blabs because I always just get so much value out of listening to everybody. I have been having a really hard time getting sucked down into shame thinking, and I've had this just overriding doom sense has been trying to take over me. And someone said to me yesterday in a group that I'd mentioned it, usually she gets it when she's trying to step up, and I think I am trying to shift big things, and it's this kind of omnipresent trying to stifle me back down. So I'm loving the elastic analogy. Just going to spring back from that because it's too easy to believe that feeling. It's a long association between me and that feeling. And like, as you say, 80% of the population are in survival mode or getting drawn down into that, with no levity and no grace to bounce back. So what a blessing to be here with you all today.
Thank you, Natasha.
Oh, darling.
Thank you.
No worries. Oh my gosh, I might say goodbye now.
Very impressive group of women.
I know, what a power unit.
I could talk with you guys for days. Honestly, I would.
I know, we're all.
We'll just hang again.
I think so, and I think I really like this longer format for having because I had a couple of people say to me, "But what will we do on the blab?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just a bit loose, and we'll just have a chat, and something will happen." And I love. Not being an interviewer and allowing some greater message to emerge through the people that happen to be on today. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful to share space with you guys. Does anyone want to mention anything that they're up to? Like you can put a URL in the chat to anything that you're promoting at the moment, or take a minute to let us know what your latest thing is.
I want to know where my camera is.
Joe, do you want to start with Joe? Oh, you're frozen.
I don't know. My camera's gone. I don't know how to put my camera back on. You can't see me.
It'll be all right.
Oh, well, okay.
We can hear you. You can tell us.
Me. Okay. What am I up to? Look, I'm in between what I'm allowing to emerge, except one thing that I'm being called forward to do is more activations, more clearing activations. They're beyond meditations. They're not just... And I love meditations. However, this is part of my energetic frequency work. And I released one last week, and it's actually on my Facebook page, which I'm just posting a link to there, probably a couple of days ago. And
activations are amazing.
Yeah, and it's a link to my blog, which has got a link to the SoundCloud meditation, or clearing activation. It's just 10 minutes, but it's... I've done it under the name of, clearing overwhelm. So and it could be any thought. It could be anything that comes in. How can I shift it? And it's not just, this is beyond the mind. This is an energetic frequency clearing activation to allow you to dissolve those energies for those. So by all means, hop over to Facebook page. Always more likes. And it's just a couple of it's in the last couple of days I put it up, or I'll post it I'll pin it to the top or something, and by all means check it out. I love your feedback and how that resonates for you, because it's I need to start sharing my energetic work, not just in session time, but for others to actually experience it. So that's my moment.
Yeah, that will be the hook for someone.
Yes.
Cool. Leah, what are you hibernating? You have a hibernating offer?
Actually, I do. So I'll post up, though. I actually post up a yoga nidra that I've recorded as well, because I teach nidra. and it's rest and relaxation. So it only goes for 35 minutes, but I've really found that it helps me in the physical body to release emotion. So it's just one of the addressing, well, for me, two of the bodies. But I also wanted to just briefly mention, earlier I said about pilot lights and working with people who are just like, what's this light thing that people keep talking about, and, you know, experiencing the light coming down and white light and all the rest of it. So during my little retreat period, I've kind of come to the conclusion that I'm going to start a very unique group, I guess it is. It's an online and an offline group, actually, and I suppose it would follow a traditional circle type format, in that people would come together and there would actually be a screen in the middle of, like, as a person in the circle. So I'd do it probably Zoom style, I guess, and as well as having physical people in the room. Because to me, I don't feel that technology imbalances things. I need to hold the space a little bit differently by having that frequency in the circle. But to me, that's how we connect the grid globally. It's not, I can't ignore it. So it's going to be a 4-week program called the Pilot Light Huddle. And what it's going to be about is just people coming together to support each other in understanding what this whole light thing is about, and doing some exercises and hearing from some mentors that I'm going to be bringing into the circle to help support people in that, and give them tools that they can just test and, you know, test assumptions with, and report back what they found for themselves and how it worked for them, and, you know, just really connect that way. Yeah, it's something that I'm being called to do, to help people in a new, more accessible way, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Nathalie, what are you up to at the moment?
Oh, God.
Have you got
I don't have I have a website that is kind of defunct, so I'm not using it. I'm now called Conflict Solutions, because, again, everything for me is helping people resolve their inner and or outer conflict, because I guess our outer conflict is a reflection of some inner conflict, but sometimes people don't want to use that mirror analogy. So it's just relationship junk, or, you know, disputes in workplaces, etc. So I'm Conflict Solutions. So a website will be coming, as well as Facebook and all the social media jazz. But I do run weekly meditations in Melbourne, person to person, just like what you said, Leah. There's just no replacement for the face-to-face. It is potent. And especially with people I've been working with for long periods of time on a consistent basis, the things that we pull in, the wisdom and the places we can go together, and the clearing that we can do on behalf of ourselves, our family, our ancestry, generations forward, humanity, it's just phenomenal. So I do that in every Wednesday in Port Melbourne, and Monday night starting soon at the Urban Alchemist.
Cool. I love
Melbourne.
those two words together, conflict solutions. It feels really good that they
so if anyone has logo ideas,
oh, that's awesome.
I'm all ears.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pleasure. And I am currently mentioning an 8-week marketing mastermind program that I've put together that really I got inspired to create, because I get so much value out of sharing space with other women. And I think, like, now I know really clearly what each of you do. And if someone says to me, or even a client, you know, someone I know needs something in a certain direction, I'm really clear on what all you guys do. And I think there's just no replacement for hanging out with each other. So I wanted to hold space for a mastermind, but I'm really into marketing still, even though that's really gross. And a lot of people seem to still need to be exposed to the work that I've culminated and the knowledge I've acquired about marketing. So I'm holding space for that for 8 weeks, and we'll walk through a lot of different things, website, email, blah, blah, I have a whole 8-week thing. And, here's my link. So, it's very, crazy affordable, and that is because I'm just doing live training, and I'm just keeping my resource input very I'm going to be disciplined and not not put myself out. Why am I even saying this? Because I got in trouble with the big girls for not charging enough. And the reason is because it's my first time and I'm really excited and I super duper want it to happen. So I don't want money to be an excuse for people. I want it to happen. And I already have 5 women, so that's nice.
That's awesome.
That'll be starting on the 5th of
I
April.
listened to your webinar last night, the one that you launched your club in, and it was brilliant. I loved it. And, I've got a marketing background, and just have your perspective on that was awesome. So go.
That was so challenging for me.
Have you got a link for your webinar? Because that was really cool.
No, not handy, but if people want, they can sign up to my email list, which is, I don't have all my links handy right now. I'm not prepared. But if people come and find me at my Facebook page, which is just Natasha Berta, there's a link there to sign up. And everyone on my list can watch any of my webinars without having to sign up again, the recording. I've got another webinar on Friday too about Instagram, because I'm in love with Instagram and I've just been like caning it and I have all the hacks now. So I'll be doing about Instagram and Snapchat and video platforms like Blab and Periscope, and I just want to get beyond Facebook. I feel like there's been a lot of disgruntled antipathy about Facebook and Facebook groups lately, and maybe it just had to happen. Maybe people needed to clear some energy about and get rebalanced about their input with Facebook, or maybe it's time for people to look at something else. Like, Facebook's not everything, and Instagram's a great way to connect with people, and actually Instagram is better for teaching. So going on little mini rants in like a microblog kind of way, that people in Instagram are way more receptive to that than Facebook. Facebook it's more about you as a person, and Instagram's more a bit more of a soapbox platform, which is fun for me because I love ranting. So good to meet you, Nathalie. Thanks, Leah, and for keeping me on task today. Oh my goodness. Have a great day.
Girls are
it was
awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been great. And
we'll be on again. What day is it?
Love to meet you, Joe.
I'll send you an email.
Tomorrow night. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you.
Tomorrow night we can make a blab again.
Yeah.
Jump on. Yeah. I think I said 6:30 Sydney time. It's going to be fun.